Hey folks, it's time for yet another custom lesson. This one has been requested by channel member Tamao Yukimura. Just a quick reference, if you're a channel member you get extra perks. You can look at that on your own time if you're interested. In any case, she wanted a Shaolin monk theme, which involved Splitstaff, fists, and elements of fire and lightning, and then 2 specific guardian spirits, but I had the complete freedom to pick whatever cores I wanted, so let's get to that. But before I do, these are my weapons. You may notice, hey, 6-piece Uminyudo's Grace. Don't I get power? Not really. Honestly, this is just pretty baseline. I avoid Death Dancer, so if you want to use Death Dancer, by all means, or whatever other set bonus, go for it. But enough about that, let's get on to these soul cores, and there are some very interesting choices that I made here because I had a lot of freedom when it comes to these soul cores. Now the first thing that I was looking for was quite literally any soul core that had the word monk in some capacity. So Onyudo, or Wheelmonk as we know it, is a monk, so that's why I picked it. That's it. When it comes to soul core properties, I would highly recommend you get this up to rank 30 because one thing I noticed with my overall setup is that I was a little anima starved. So boosting this up can only help you. Other than that, these stats are whatever you want them to be. What I'll just quickly say about Wheelmonk is that it's a really fun, powerful core, and you can control where it goes and quite literally run over your opponents. But I'll talk more about specifics a bit later. I don't want to spend too much time in the menu as opposed to just showing it to you this time around. Next up is Tesso, which I know is a meme, right? Because you quite literally fart on your opponent. I'll show that one more time because, yeah, you literally fart on your opponent. So the reason I picked Tesso is because it was once a monk, so I kind of had to go with it. But there are other options that you could do if you don't feel Tesso is particularly practical. When it comes to soul core rank, I didn't boost it, but you can get some active skill key damage. I forget, it goes up to like a couple of %. But the only real interesting thing for me was yokai ability key pulse. But just a general rule, feel free to boost up the soul rank if you have it, but you don't really need to. And you can just see what I'm playing with, and you can see the results that I'm able to pull off. But more about Tesso a bit later. And then you may have seen that I'm using Benkei, and so I figured, hey, doesn't he have a set called the Mighty Monk? So I decided, why don't I summon the Mighty Monk myself? You can see the soul core rank here is 30. It's not so much because of these locked effects as opposed to me testing out anima charge bonus Amrita gauge. As I mentioned, I'm a bit anima starved, so I really wanted to get bonuses like this. What I'll say about this real briefly is that this doubles as a shield to protect you from attacks and does a pretty good AoE key damage shockwave. It's pretty cool. But yeah, let's talk about Blue Dragons since this was specifically requested. So once again, I was going with monk-based themes. I went with Uminyudo because I learned that Uminyudo directly translates to Sea Priest, so I guess that fits the monk theme. This is probably the single soul core I would advise for sure getting up to rank 30 because we get anima bonus on a saturated enemy. And I mentioned just before that we're starved for anima, so make sure you boost this up so you have another way to generate anima. And Uminyudo is a massive power play. It inflicts lightning and water at the same time, so it has the potential to confuse, and that's why getting this up is really good. In addition, the life drain lightning attack is awesome, but specifically with Blue Dragon, which is a lightning based guardian spirit. But yeah, other than that, get whatever you want on here. I didn't really care about these, I just picked one that I had. Next up was Koroka. So this one was an interesting choice because I actually was asking my wife for some help on what would be a decent monk-based core. So she personally thought that this animation was somewhat, I guess, cool because you're floating, spiritual, I don't know, it was just her preference. So I was like, alright, fine, I'll make a use for Koroka. And it's an interesting core. It's one that many players dislike because of the perceived slow animation, which it is pretty slow, but I'll show you how you can take advantage of this. One little bit of information that I won't be able to show but is nice is that this performs better in the Dark Realm. You basically summon twice as many fireballs, I think a total of 8, and so it's pretty cool. But I'll showcase some things you can do about it. For soul core rank, I didn't bother boosting it, but if you want to, go for it. The last one though was very much intentional. Onyudo. This is a monk, so I gotta pick the monk core, right? This is yet another one I would advise boosting up to rank 30 simply because anima bonus elemental attack is nice. And with our theme here, we've got access to all sorts of different elements, and I'll showcase that soon enough. When it comes to the guardian spirits themselves, Sohaya is rather interesting in that it nullifies confusion, which means You can have 2 elements on you at the same time and you won't take an extra 50% damage courtesy of confusion. This is generally well suited for more yokai, just because of things like counter yokai tactics, you nullify confusion, and it's a purity-based guardian spirit, but that doesn't mean it's useless against humans. It's definitely pretty cool. Whereas with Blue Dragon, this is very much skewed towards shocking enemies and punishing them when they're shocked, so it can be very valuable for lightning-based setups. In any case, enough about that. Before I continue though, I do want to show you some alternatives as opposed to Tesso, because I'm sure that's probably a soul core you would most likely replace. So with Tesso, there are many different options you can put in, because as you may notice, I have a lot of attunements. If I go back to Tesso, I think, what was I at, 14? Real quick? Yeah, so I've got like a lot. So you can sub in pretty much whatever you want. If you still want to keep the monk theme, I guess it's really a matter of subjectivity. I suppose you could use Enki instead, because there's kind of like a monkey aspect. Maybe it was a monk at some point, or haha, monkey, get it? Ha? Alright, my humor sucks. But you could go with that. If you want something a bit more physical with fists or staff, then I guess Yoki could work. This really just comes down to preference. There's no real right or wrong answer, because it's a theme, and whatever you think fits the theme, go for it. Some other choices might include Abra and Soldier, but it's kind of a projectile. I don't know if it really fits. One-Eyed Oni, because you are using your fists as well, so maybe that could work. If you're a fan of the staff stuff, you could go with Karasa Tengu. That one's a decent one. I was playing around with that as well. Other ones can include, well, I did pick Koroka. Let's see, I know there are a couple of others that I definitely mess around with. Already have Onyudo. What else? Let me just scan through this real quick. Kiryoki, because of the monkey, primal monkey. I don't know. It's a joke at this point, right? What else? There were actually some that I thought would fit more appropriately, and I'll make my recommendation as to which one I would pick. And here we are, Ancient Nioh Tengu. I would actually substitute this in, because why? You summon a bunch of these lovely purple Nioh Tengus to attack and do a bunch of melee attacks, and I thought that would fit with the whole fist staff Shaolin monk type theme. So that would be my personal #1 pick. It's a very powerful core. Another one, just for the whole staff type stuff, there is Ongyoki, which you can teleport away, and that's pretty cool. But again, it's really just up to you. It's a matter of preference. But enough about that. Let's get into the soul cores that I did actually choose. And let's go with response time. As a reminder, what exactly is response time? What do I mean? What I mean is as soon as my character will block after using a yokai ability. That's how you know when you can freely follow up an yokai ability with some cool attacks. So let's take a look at Wheelmonk and explain some things you can do. So Wheelmonk is ultimately something you can just control and steer, and it basically will keep going unless you stop moving or run out of anima. Now the response time and activation time for Wheelmonk is really quick. Alright, look at that. Just a quick tap. So I wouldn't recommend it for a quick tap. I would recommend you make sure you run a target over and inflict that fire. Believe it or not, the trail of fire that you do leave actually hits multiple times, so you can inflict scorch and otherwise in moments you may not have thought is possible. But yeah, you can like run over a target and then you can attack pretty quickly. So I think it's pretty cool. Tesso, on the other hand, is really weird. Alright, it's a fairly long animation with a reasonably quick response time. But just being able to find a safe time to throw out Wheelmonk, or rather a fart cloud, is just kind of strange. Now, what about Seto Taisho? Seto Taisho is fairly quick response time. You can attack, you can actually go through, I guess, the big brother version of myself, so that can be really handy. And also what it can do is block many attacks. So it can be pretty cool. Ooh, that was a little trippy. What about Blue Dragon stuff? So let's showcase it. Uminyudo, you can control a little bit of this direction, but not really much. You pretty much just want to keep going forwards. And what's surprising is that the response time to it is a lot sooner than you'd think. Before the animation really evaporates, you can do something. So here, I'll showcase it again. Pretty neat, huh? Koroka, on the other hand, is pretty strange. Very long animation time, but very quick response time. This is one of the weirdest soul cores you'll most likely ever use. And I'll showcase some things you can do with it sooner enough. Last but not least, we have Onyudo. Long animation time, long response time. You gotta plan these out. So overall, with these soul cores, you do need to pay attention, which can be pretty difficult. So I'll talk about how you can work with this soon enough. Also, one thing I need to mention, some special things with each of these cores, or rather just Onyudo, is that Onyudo takes on the properties of whatever element the guardian spirit is at. And if you've seen one of my other lessons, you may know that you can actually activate it, kind of trick the game in a way to do two different elements. Not at once, but you can go between the two. So by default it's lightning, but if I swap my guardian spirits in the proper way, I can do purity punches. Let me demonstrate real quick. There you go, purity punches. So what's the input for this? Well, you got prime the Ryokai ability, so for me it's R2. And then instead of pressing X or cross, what I'm doing is I'm holding the stance button, and then what I'm gonna do is switch my guardian spirit and activate cross at the same time. All right, that didn't work. Let me try it one more time, see if I can pull it off. Nope. It takes a little bit of practice. Hello? What? Let me try this again. There we go. Purity punches. Obviously it's difficult. It takes a little practice, but it's one of those options you have. So, on to the question of, hey, when the heck can I use Tesso? When the heck can I use Koroka safely? So this was a little tricky, but let me show you some things you can use with fists against humans. Alright? Alright, so I'm gonna actually do a battering ram. And then this is when I do Koroka. And see, by the time they get up, the projectiles are hit, and I can re-engage fairly safely. Pretty neat. So yeah, that's just one example. Also, what about Tesso? Tesso's is pretty funny. So my recommendation, because you need to be fairly close range for this. Come on, let's deplete your ki. Deplete your ki, please. Alright, Izuna drop, and then Tesso as soon as they fall to the ground. You will hit them, and against most normal humans you can usually get a final blow. Against bosses you'll at least get the Tesso down. It's really a disrespectful play, but there is actually some utility to it. So let me showcase the utility of Tesso, and I just want you to see it. So it doesn't stagger or anything, but it will do a modest amount of max ki damage as long as they're in the cloud. So yeah, it's not like an amazing amount by any means, and it does have quite a bit of lag time, so you kind of have to plan it, but it can be pretty hilarious. And it's another debuff. So it's not amazing by any means, but it's not like it's not super as awful. Yeah, now you know about that. I like to also just generally use Koroka when I think I'm safe, so I can get the fire application, but and truth be told, you may have other options when it comes to things like Wheelmonk. So yeah, just some avenues for using Tesso or for using Koroka. Let's do one more example with, say, Splitstaff. Alright. Pretty neat, huh? Not as bad as you might think. But it is pretty meme-worthy. In any case, let's showcase how you can use these soul cores just for your reference. So my advice when it comes to Wheelmonk, not to use it as an evasive sort of play, but to use it to help you run a target over and inflict confusion at the same time. It can be devastating in that regard. But yeah, quick fire application, Wheelmonk is your friend. It's arguably a lot better for that purpose than, say, Koroka is. Tesso, it's alright, I guess, but you're gonna be hard pressed to find a situation where you feel safe for all that long animation. But it is admittedly pretty hilarious, especially if you're fortunate. Sometimes I'm able to do a fart into an Azuna drop. I have actually done it before, but it is admittedly quite tricky. Seto Taisho is your ranged AoE key damage. You can drop it down and go into town. And like I've said, you can actually use it and then go through the attack. So here, let me see if I can showcase this. Alright. So here, I can go in. Ah, it didn't work as I'd hoped. So here. Oh, very close. But I think you get the idea. Now, when it comes to these, Uminyudo is very much a power play. And you're going to use it to inflict confusion. I do not advise it when you're not safe because it is a very long animation you commit to. But it's great to apply confusion and do a lot of damage, especially with other elements. Last but not least, Onyudo. Onyudo serves a somewhat a similar purpose, but it's a little, I guess, heftier when it comes to key damage. Now be warned, with Onyudo, its tracking can sometimes be abysmal, so you can overshoot a target and it can feel really bad, but when it connects, it's great. Like here, oh, he dodged away. Felt really bad, right? Yet another example of Koroka. Decent combo there. Uminyudo should mess the target up, and it can be pretty effective. Uminyudo is not very valuable against targets that are blocking. It does not do that much break damage, but it is very good in the general damage department, but that means you need to make sure they're not blocking. So if you can get a human just repeatedly hit stunned, you can, as you can see there, zero key combo them, which can be absolutely devastating. But let's talk about Yokai Shift. Enough about that. Then I'll talk about how you can work with this setup overall. Alright, what do we got? Go! Oh, target's dead. Alright, so with the Phantom Yokai Shift, things are going to be a little awkward. All of these abilities have very long animations. Fortunately though, you have Blue Dragon. So Blue Dragon will basically counterattack if you're about to get hit. Which is great. But yeah, this is going to be very much like a specialist sort of Yokai Shift. You got a long animation there, you've got a long animation there, and you've got a very long animation there. So you will most likely run out of Yokai Shift very quickly, but you have Blue Dragon which you can use, which can be very handy. Yeah, see, dares attack. And at the very least, you do have options for confusion, which is always really nice. Now, one thing I will say with this, as I said as specialist, my advice would be to save Uminyudo towards the very end. So if you have a little bit of gauge left, activate Blue Dragon and then Uminyudo. So even if you get hit, you can usually screw over a target, which can be very handy. Now, Sohaya is a little different. Sohaya, you have more options, but with Tesso it's going to feel a little weird. So my advice for an engage would be Sohaya into Seto Taisho, charge an attack, do a bunch of attacks, and hopefully charge up your anima in Yokai Shift, and then if you have enough, go crazy with Wheelmonk until it runs out. It can be ridiculous. But yeah, again, this is also very weird, very niche, but at least you have some power plays when it comes to Sohaya, Seto Taisho, charging in, and then using Wheelmonk to inflict confusion, and then I guess if you are able to use Tesso just to be silly. But yeah, the Yokai Shift overall is just a little weird with this setup, so you gotta be very careful. Now, all of this is leading up to one thing, which is, hey, I kind of have awkward animations. How am I going to deal with enemies in general? And so for this reason, I say this setup is very dependent upon your knowledge of your weapons. So you need to know how to use your fists, and you need to know how to use your Splitstaff. Now, the thing that these two weapons have in common is simply that they are phenomenal at doing zero key pressure. And they have benefits for that. As you can see here, increased melee damage from Splitstaff against enemies that have zero key or less. And I believe the fist has that as well. I'm not sure where it is. Let me see if I can find it real quick. key damage. Where's the fist things? Here you go. Increase melee damage from fists against enemies that have 0 ki or less by a certain percentage. So you need to be very proficient with these weapons. Unfortunately, these weapons are phenomenal at that. And if you need further information, of course, please do look at anyone's fist guides, but I will of course toot my own horn and recommend that you take a look at mine. But yeah, keep your enemies perpetually at 0 ki so you can charge up your anima, so you can use a lot of your specialist abilities and kick butt. Because it's going to be difficult otherwise if you rely too much on these soul cores, so you need to know how to keep your opponents at basically next to no ki. I think it's a little trickier on humans compared to, say, yokai, because yokai abilities, in my opinion, seem to just be a bit more interactive when you're dealing with, say, yokai versus, say, humans. But that's just my own personal opinion. But yeah, keep them at low key constantly, cycle yokai abilities to facilitate that and to kind of almost take a break. But make sure, above all else, you know how to use these weapons, otherwise it's going to be immensely difficult. So yeah, that's pretty much my advice. But you've got a lot of avenues to inflict confusion, which can be great. I mean, you've got, since I'm using corrupted weapons, I have access to all elements. Sure, Sohaya is purity, but I have at least access to 4 out of 5 elements at all times. So confusion is going to be something that's huge, and I would strongly recommend it. Take breaks whenever you need to with your weapons. But yeah, that's really what it's going to be. Keep the pressure going, switch your weapons as you need to, and I think your overall will fare pretty well. So let's just showcase kind of a sample of what I think can be done with all this together. But yeah, you really got to know your weapons. There is no other way around it. But if you can take advantage of this, because you have access to things like confusion all the time, you generally will fare pretty well. And it can be funny, of course, if you fart on your opponent. I mean, really. It doesn't really get any more disrespectful than that, in my opinion. Very nice. Alright, let's go beat a human up, and then I think that's enough before we get on to the gameplay showcase. Hey, buddy. Alright, then let's fart on him. And then let's final blow him. Yeah, nice try. Just stuff like that. Alright, but as a reminder, let's do a short little summary before I get on. You are going to rely upon your weapons a lot. You need to know how to use these and 0-ki combo enemies to death. Like, that's super important. And then you use your soul cores, these very niche specialist soul cores, in order to take advantage of a lot of stuff. It's going to be tricky. Speaking of specialist soul cores, and I can't believe I've almost forgot to mention this. Seto Taisho. It's not just about blocking projectiles. Let me see if I can get this guy to... Here. He'll just straight up block an attack for you, body block, prevent an enemy from getting towards you. So that's another reprieve. I want to get a burst attack, alright? Didn't work as well, but I have had it straight up just block the attack. You just gotta make sure not to be in the AoE shockwave. But yeah, they really... It makes such a huge difference if an enemy can't hit you. So I'm glad I remembered that. I don't think there's anything else I need to touch on. Oh well, let's kill this guy. With yokai shift. Alright, let's go. Here, have a fart. Didn't work, oh well. Have a Wheelmonk. That'll work. Close enough. Almost forgot about that. So yeah, I'll just say it one more time. Make sure you're very comfortable with 0-ki combos with your weapons. Gotta know how to do that, and of course, take advantage of your soul cores when you can. In any case, it's time to get on to the gameplay showcase. I will see you guys momentarily. Alright, let's see what all this is about. So I'm basically picking like a shrine type of level because of thematic reasons. But let's just get on to the gameplay. My objective is to deplete an enemy's ki and keep it that way the whole time. So here's one case where I showcase Tesso. Final blow is super disrespectful after I farted on him. But yeah, you need to rely on your zero ki combos, particularly against humans, simply because if they can't do anything, you have a lot more free reign. And being able to apply confusion with things like Wheelmonk makes it that much easier. So yeah, I'm just going to be doing a lot of these same moves quite often, just to make sure they can't do too much. And here we go. Seto Taisho, deplete his ki, and I think the target's just about to die. Yep. Now when it comes to this scroll, this is one of the most annoying scrolls you're ever going to deal with. Why? Because you've got people shooting you all the time, and this is where Seto Taisho can really shine. So, person was going to shoot a cannon, I didn't take the full damage and die or anything like that. So Seto Taisho is very helpful, but even with that, you need to make sure that you are paying attention, because getting shot off screen is pretty annoying. There's another example of Tesso. I was actually going for the Koroka battering ram thing, but it wasn't working. And here you can see Uminyudo wasn't that effective because this target was blocking. So you got to make sure you get those hits off so you can keep a target staggered, and then you're in good shape. But so far so good. And here's the part that gets really nutty. So you have one of those like glorified NPC revenants, and then you have a little guy, you're like, okay, it seemed like the same it was before. But what's extra frustrating is that when you get this NPC on low health, another one spawns in, which makes it extra tricky because you've got people who can shoot stuff, and so you really need to make sure to kill them. Kill one as soon as you can. And that's exactly what I'm trying to do by using Onyudo to help me inflict confusion. And here's the second NPC. And yeah, I'm using Seto Taisho to give me some time. It's just to stay away from certain targets. I want to be safe. I want to kill this target as soon as I can. And I'm able to do that. So now it's just one single enemy. It's not too bad when I'm working with Fists and Splitstaff together, and I'm just going to try to deplete her ki and keep it at 0 as often as possible. I really did want to showcase the Koroka battering ram, but I just found, hey, I wasn't able to do it, and that's alright. Go for Beyond Infinity, mess up the second part of it, but then I get back the full part of it, which is cool. So yeah, pretty neat. And see, I'm trying to do battering ram, but again, it just didn't work. But it doesn't matter when I get access to confusion, and now this target is dead. Excellent. Now the boss of this is Saika Magoichi, who is very frustrating because, as you'll see, he likes to fly and teleport and move around everywhere. It's not even so much his ranged attacks, it's that when you're dishing out all this pressure, he'll just move away. And then the worst part about it, in my opinion, is that you'll lose lock on. And that can suck. So I tried to fart on him, it didn't work there. Again, you gotta plan your Tessos. That attack is frustrating. The whole grab from the air stuff, it is annoying, but again, it's not the biggest frustration for me personally. And it won't really matter if the target's confused anyway. And yeah, here we go. Get that ki quite low, confusion really helps, and so now my objective is to prolong confusion and extend it by using a bunch of different elemental effects. So you're gonna see, hey, confusion's almost out, let's use Onyudo. Doesn't work at first? Excellent, we got the saturate debuff on, so we've extended the duration of confusion. I just used some jutsu just because I just wanted something to fill in the gap. And then I know confusion's gonna run out pretty soon. Fortunately, here we go. Got some zero ki pressure going. It's awesome when it works. I think this is the one time I use Koroka the whole time. And it helps, a decent amount of fire application. Keep in mind, this guy's fire-based enemy, so the fact that I'm able to get that much fire application is great. And half his health is gone. I'm keeping confusion up. He's just blocking and teleporting non-stop, and it's really, really annoying. And so I'm getting a little annoyed, as anyone would, especially since he flies, but hey, look at that. Disrespectful battering ram. Good moment for me to have done Koroka, instead I just decided to use Reckless Charge. These burst attacks I can't really counter because I don't have a brute form, but that's okay. Now my objective is to showcase some Yokai Shift, which I'm going into when he has about a third of his health. So let's see what I do. I use the Guardian Spirit, I use Seto Taisho, charge up an attack, start attacking a bunch, and then, you know how I was talking about charging up Wheelmonk? Look at that. Look at all that sweet, sweet damage that we've done. Even farted on him to be disrespectful. Seto Taisho once again preventing him from flying, and he's overall pretty helpless when I'm dealing with a shift. And then let's kill him with a good old grapple. Excellent. He is dead and he deserves it. Man, this scroll is painful. In any case, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this was helpful, and of course, I will see you guys next time.